Okay, this is for Dr. Haradine's A&P class. We're still on the nervous system. This is out of the second page of the nervous system packet, and it is neurons. So we'll go over neurons real fast and cover what he said we need to know for the test. So in my previous video that we went over in the neuroglial cells, I kind of had a rough diagram of the neurons, but this is going to be more specific and more correct. So we're going to have our core, where we're going to have the DNA stored. And then we have all these tracks. And I'll try and draw it fairly quickly, but I'll try and keep it fairly accurate. And these are our dendrites. And this is what connects to like other neurons to bring in impulses. So we have our dendrites. And they receive information. And then it's not on our packet, but just so you know, the body of the neuron is called the soma, which is body. And then we have all these fibers coming off. And then we have these channels, and this is actually the axon. And I know in the previous video I was kind of drawing them like this, but you will see why. So we have the axon, which is where information gets sent out. And then surrounding the axon, I'll change colors here, we have the Schwann cells. And if you remember from the previous video, Schwann cells like to spiral out as they grow. So they're going to slowly kind of spiral around the axon, and the Schwann cells produce the myelin sheath. So for this section, he just wanted us to know that this is the myelin. But also known as the Schwann cells. And he also pointed out that on the test we need to know these gaps, and they're after every myelin-like or Schwann cell segment we have the nodes of Ranvier. And then at the end of these axons, I'll draw one coming off the other direction. And this again is the axon. We have the terminal. And these will connect to other neurons or other axons. And that's how the signal transfers from one neuron to the next is through these axons. Then again, we'd have the myelin sheaths forming around the axon. And for the bottom two, we have, he says we have nerves and we have tracks. And nerves are only in the peripheral nervous system. And tracks are in the central nervous system. And he also made a point in his notes that just remember, tracks are not in the PNS and nerves are only in the peripheral nervous system and they are not in the tract. So probably a test question, so good to remember for those two. Also in the last video under neuroglial cells, he has, I'm going to butcher, but ependymal cells. And real fast, I'll cover what those are. So they are responsible for transferring CSF, which is cerebral spinal fluid. So we have oops. This is going to be a really kind of rough diagram. So we have the brain and and the spinal cord. And if we were to take kind of a blown up section from the spinal cord, what we would see are these cells that line the spinal cord. On both sides. And we have cells like this also in our lungs. It's why we can like cough up mucus and different things like that, or when you wake up and from camping and stuff and you got a bunch of stuff in your lungs that you have to cough out. This is why you get that. So you have these cells that line the spinal column, also the respiratory tract, but for our case, the spinal column. And they have tons of little hairs that come off of them, or hair-like structures, we should say. And this is what helps cerebral spinal fluid pass back and forth. So they just kind of move it up and down. And for the respiratory tract, it would be dirt or particles. They just kind of move them up towards, your mouth, so you can clear your throat or clear your lungs out. But for our purpose for this test, it's in the spine, and they are the ependymal cells. So hopefully that helps clear that part up. All right, thanks. Let me know if you have any other questions.